10 tips to choosing and hiring a private investigator. My name is Charles Piper. I'm a licensed private investigator, certified fraud examiner, and owner of Charles Piper's Professional Services. Prior to opening my company, I served over 30 years in law enforcement. Got my start in the United States Army in the Military Police Corps. Next served as a city cop, a detective, and for over 20 years as a federal agent. I've conducted investigations from coast to coast. Those investigations have identified wrongdoers, proven other facts, and resulted in the recovery of millions of dollars. The tools that investigators utilize during their investigations vary. They may include well-planned and thoroughly conducted interviews, covert surveillance with the use of cameras, legally recorded conversations, undercover activity, record searches, background checks, document review and analysis, and the collection of evidence. Every step during every investigation should be well planned and well documented. The investigator has an obligation to keep their client or employer informed of the investigative progress. I'm Charles Piper. I hope that this information and the information which follows will serve your needs. What should you look for when selecting a private investigator? Number one, being number one on the internet search engine does not necessarily mean that they're the best private investigator or the best private investigation company. Often making it to the top of a search engine means that the company paid to optimize their website or paid other advertising fees. Number two, make sure the private investigator is licensed as a private investigator. There are a few states that do not require private investigators to be licensed, but most states do require that the private investigator be licensed as a private investigator. Number three, ascertain if the private investigator or the company has professional liability insurance. Upon request, an insured private investigator can provide the client with a certificate of insurance. Number four, if you're contacting a private investigative company, find out the experience level of the individual private investigator who will actually provide the investigative service for you. Find out if that private investigator has the experience and or ability to work the type of case which you need help with. In other words, if a private investigative company employs several investigators, you're going to want to know, are you getting the senior investigator, the junior investigator, or what? Example, if you need professional interviews conducted, find out what type of interview training they have received, how many interviews they've conducted, and what type of cases those interviews involved. Number five, find out how many times the private investigator has testified in court, and if so, what type of cases. If you hire a private investigator and your case goes to trial, I'm sure you'll feel very good if you know that that private investigator has courtroom experience. Number six, ask about other professional credentials that the private investigator assigned to your case possesses. For example, are they a certified fraud examiner, or are they certified in interviewing, etc.? Ask if they're a college graduate, and if so, what was their major? Find out if that investigator has completed any police or investigative academies. Factually, some private investigators have never attended an investigative academy of any type. Number seven, if you're going to hire a private investigator, I suggest that you conduct some type of a query on a search engine of their name. For example, for me, if you were to enter Charles Piper, private investigator, the search results would find some articles that I've written and other information about me. Number eight, will you have to pay any money up front? Often you will have to pay a retainer up front. A retainer is an agreed upon amount that the client pays the private investigator in advance, and the private investigator bills from that. Also ask if any portion of the retainer is refundable. For example, if you paid a retainer of $1,000 to a private investigator and the private investigator's rate was $100 an hour, what would happen if the investigator solved the case in 5 hours? Would they refund any of the retainer to you? You're going to want to ask that question. Private investigative hourly rates. They vary from approximately $50 an hour all the way up to $400 an hour. The average is more like between $75 and $125 an hour. But there's an old saying that you get what you pay for. I would also urge a potential client to make that further inquiry if a private investigator has a very low rate to ensure that they do have insurance, if that's what you want. Obviously, if you don't have insurance, you could afford to charge a lower rate. Other expenses that a client may expect to pay are the reimbursement for mileage, cost to search electronic databases, court record fees, photography development, etc. Number 9, ask if you will be required to sign a contract or some type of a written agreement before the investigation begins. I will tell you that it's fairly common for a private investigator to ask a client to sign a contract. Number 10, ask yourself if you feel comfortable and confident that you are dealing with an experienced and professional private investigator who will do their best to serve your needs. You know, over the years I've conducted investigations of all types from coast to coast, and one thing I know for certain, and that's that each and every investigation is extremely important to the victim or the person calling. You're going to want to hire a private investigator who is honest, who is concerned, who is trained and skilled, who is professional, and you're going to want to hire a private investigator who is experienced. Feel free to review the frequently asked questions on my company website. I'm Charles Piper. I hope that this information was useful for you, and I wish you the best of luck.